What's up, everybody? My name is Ruben Guzman. This is my first YouTube video. I make videos on TikTok and Instagram about wholesaling, so I wanted to make a long form video answering some of the most common questions that I get about wholesaling to help you guys get started, or maybe some of you guys have already gotten started and you need help scaling or whatever the case may be. So these are going to be questions from my TikTok videos, comments from my TikTok videos, and I'm going to be answering them and hopefully helping you guys out a little bit. So for those of you that don't know what wholesaling is, I'm talking about wholesaling real estate. Okay, so in short, wholesaling real estate is when you lock up a contract with the owner of a home to sell their home, right? You don't necessarily put up any of your own money. You just sign a contract with the homeowner to sell their home. Then you turn around and you sell that contract to an investor or a cash buyer for a little bit more than what you have it under contract for. So let me give you an example. Let's say you go to a homeowner and you say, hey, I want to buy your house for $100,000, right? You sign a contract to buy their house for $100,000, but you're never actually using your own money. You're just signing the contract that says you're going to purchase the house for $100,000. You're not going to purchase it yet because in that contract, you're going to put a 30-day inspection period that's going to allow you 30 days to find a buyer and get the property inspected, or for them to get the property inspected. So you sign the contract with the seller for $100,000. Then you go find a cash buyer or an investor, someone who's willing to pay, let's say, $120,000 for that house. Okay. Once you find someone willing to pay $120,000 for that house, you're going to assign your rights to your original contract with the seller to the new buyer. Okay, so you have a seller, you have a buyer, and you have you. You're the middleman. You're going to assign that contract to the buyer for $120,000. You have a contract with the seller for $100,000. Where does that remaining 20 grand go? Goes into your pocket. Okay, and the title company is the one who does the closing and the paperwork and all the paying for you. So that is wholesaling. Wholesaling is when you buy at a discount and sell at a higher price and you keep the difference. That's exactly what wholesaling is. It's a very good way to make money. It's a good business if that's what you're looking for, or if you're just looking for a revenue stream or some income, it's a good way to do that as well. But there are a lot of people who are successfully starting wholesaling businesses, and they can be very lucrative. And in my opinion, it is the best way to get into real estate and become a real estate investor, especially if you have no capital. So that's wholesaling. I want to go into answering some of these questions from my TikTok videos. These are all comments, so I'll have the comments on the screen. So let's go ahead and get started. Let me wet my mouth first. All right. Question number 1, what if the owner takes an offer, but no investor wants the home? Are you liable to buy? So this is, without a doubt, the most common question I get, and understandably so. What happens if you put a house under contract, but you can't find a buyer, right? Are you stuck? Do you have to buy the house? No. Okay. If you do things the right way, you will never get stuck with a house. Now, there are a lot of tips and pieces of advice I could give you to avoid that situation, to avoid the situation of where you're not going to have a buyer. But that's a topic for another video. Let's talk about what happens if your contract runs out of time and you don't have a buyer. So, first and foremost, in all of your contracts, you should be putting in an inspection clause, right? Or an inspection contingency that says you have 30 days or whatever day that you decide is best for you. Mine are generally 30 days. I have a 30-day inspection period where within those 30 days after signing the contract, I can terminate that contract for any reason regarding the inspection, okay? So if I'm on day 25, well, let's just say I'm on day 29 and I don't have a buyer, right? If I have that inspection clause in there the right way, I can go to the homeowner and say, hey, look, it needs a little bit more work than we thought. The numbers aren't exactly coming back where we thought they were. I'm going to need to get this for a lower price with you, or I'm going to have to terminate the contract because it's just not what we thought it was going to be. And yeah, some sellers are going to be frustrated because you just tied up a bunch of their time, and you definitely want to avoid this if at all possible, but it may happen. And if it happens, you need to be able to exercise that clause in your contract, okay? You need to be able to take advantage of that contingency in your contract. And a lot of homeowners will understand. A lot of homeowners, you're going to go to them and say, hey, look, it's not what we thought it was. It's going to need a little more in repairs. I'm going to have to get this for a lower price. Otherwise, this is not going to work out. they're either going to walk away from the deal and say, hey, no problem, I'll go find someone else that's going to pay me more, or they're going to say, well, how much lower do we need to go? And then you can try to get a lower price. And by that time, you should know about what it's going to sell for, because your buyers are going to be telling you. If you have something under contract that you're trying to sell to a buyer for 80 grand and they keep telling you, I can only pay 60 grand for this, well, then you need to get that contract down with the seller in order to be able to give it to a buyer for about 60 grand, because you're getting buyer feedback. Okay. So nothing really can happen. You can terminate the contract. The answer to this question is you can terminate the contract within the inspection period, okay? Or you can renegotiate, get a lower price, sign a new contract, get a new 30 days, and sell it to a buyer at a lower price, because by then you're going to know what kind of prices the buyers are looking for, okay? So are you liable to buy? No. There is no one in the world that can make you pay for a house you cannot afford, okay? And the seller is not going to want that either. That's just not feasible. Okay, so what happens? Are you liable to buy? No, you are not liable to buy. What you'll do is you will renegotiate to get a lower price under the contract and get a new contract, or you'll just terminate the contract, which you are legally able to do as long as you put in that inspection period in your contract. Okay, so hopefully that answers your question, dude. A lot of you guys I know are concerned about that. If you set yourself up right, and there are ways to avoid that situation, like not, over exaggerating your numbers or not exaggerating the ARV. I know it can be tempting to put a house under contract for a little bit more than what you think you should because you want a house under contract. But trust me, it's not worth it. Do your numbers the right way, and you can really avoid those situations where, you're not getting buyers when you think you need to be. So that's it, dude. Hope that helps. All right, next question. How long do you have to find the buyer? This is an excellent question, piggybacking off the first question I just put in. You have as long as you state in the contract, okay? Now, remember, you have to make sure that your contracts are legally binding. You have to make sure you're using the right ones. You got to, whether you need to confer with a lawyer or whatever the case may be, you need to make sure that your contracts are legally binding, and your title companies can certainly help you with that. That being said, how long do you have to find the buyer? You have as long as you want to have, okay? As long as you can get the seller to agree. If you put in a 30-day inspection period, then you have 30 days. If you put in a 45-day inspection period, you have 45 days. If you put in a 15-day inspection period, you have 15 days, right? And it shouldn't be taking you that long to find buyers, because you should be signing these up at good prices and you shouldn't be asking too much. And if you have a good deal, there are buyers out there that want your good deal, okay? So how long do you have to find the buyer? You have as long as you need. You have as long as you put in the contract. This is one of the benefits of wholesaling as opposed to agency, right? Outside of just making way more money than most agents, you also are your own boss, okay? You don't work for a broker. You can negotiate with the seller for any terms in the contract that you feel are necessary, right? Within reason. Whatever the seller will agree to, you can make that contract so that you're safe there, so that you can have 40 days if you need 40 days, or if you only need 20, 30 days because you can turn it relatively quick, then only 20 or 30 days. But how long do you have to find the buyer? You have as long as you state in the contract. That's the simple answer. So easy question. Hope that helps. Next question. Do you need a real estate license to do this? No, you do not need a real estate license to do this anywhere. There are some states that require you to have a license to do multiple assignment contracts, or require you to have a license for, this scenario. But in every state, it is possible to wholesale without a license, because you can utilize, using an LLC to assign it, or you can assign the rights of your LLC to the new buyer, right? Or you can do what's called a double closing. A double closing is when there are two simultaneous closings in a day. So the difference between an assignment and a double close is, in an assignment, all I'm doing is taking that original contract that I have with the seller and I'm just assigning it to the new buyer. Okay, so I have a contract with the seller. I'm going to take this contract and I'm just going to assign it to the new buyer. Okay, that's what an assignment contract is. A double closing is when I buy the house from the seller and then I turn around and I sell the house to the buyer. Okay, so buy the house to the seller, now I own the house, then I sell the house to the buyer. So there's 2 simultaneous closings in one day. Now, in order to do that, you either A, have to have the money to purchase the house with the seller. With an assignment contract, you don't have to have the money because you're just assigning the contract. If you're doing a double closing, that means you're closing on the house with the seller, and then you're turning around and closing on the house with the buyer, okay? Or you can find a title company that does what's called transactional funding, which is when they will double close for you, but they will use the buyer's money to actually close on the house with the seller for you. Okay, so they use the buyer's money to buy the house for you, and then they'll sell the house back to the buyer. You'll get the difference, right? So I don't want to get too into double closings because you guys can do research on that, and I can make a video on that another time. But double closings and assignment contracts, they're a little bit different. Double closings give you a lot more freedom, especially in the states that are regulated, the states that want you to be licensed. If you do a double closing in those states that want you licensed, a lot of times it's a good way around it. Okay, next question. Who pays for closing costs and processing fees? The end buyer. Okay, the end buyer pays the closing costs and pays all the closing fees. All right, so when you are talking to a seller, you're approaching them and saying, hey, I want to buy your house. Okay, we pay cash, right? We close as is, and we close very quickly. So those are the 3 things that you're always going to be telling sellers to get them to, hear a cash offer, consider your offer, right? Well, if you don't end up buying the home and you end up assigning the home, which is what wholesaling is, then the end buyer will also pay all the closing costs and title fees, and they know that. And these cash buyers, these investors, they know that in a cash deal that closes quickly and it's as is, they know they're paying closing costs, right? So the end buyer pays all the closing costs, all the title fees. You don't pay any. The seller doesn't pay any. The seller only pays off from his proceeds any liens he has on the house or, an outstanding mortgage, right? So outside of that, the buyer pays all other costs. You as the wholesaler pay nothing, okay? You may, in certain circumstances, be asked to pay for the title fee, which is like $200 to $300. Usually not a big deal, but a lot of times you don't need to do that. And a way to avoid that is keep your contracts to yourself before you send them to the title company. So basically what I'm saying is, like, if you want to avoid paying for title search, you can just wait till you have a buyer and then send the seller contract and the assignment contract to the title company at the same time. And then the title company will use the buyer's funds, right, the closing costs, the title fees, and he'll include that. He'll include the title search with that, so you don't have to pay that. I would recommend not doing that way. I would recommend just paying for the title search if necessary, or you can just ask the title attorney if they can just do it on their own and then use the buyer's money in the end to pay off the title search. So who pays for closing costs and processing fees? The end buyer. That's it on that. Next question. Where do you get the contracts that you send to the buyer? Okay, so whether it be the contract that you send to the buyer, which is going to be the assignment contract, or the contract that you send to the seller, which is going to be the purchase agreement, you can get those contracts online. Of course, legally, I can't give you legal advice. I recommend talking to your lawyer first and foremost. Okay, find a lawyer, find a real estate lawyer, talk to your title attorney, whatever the case may be. Talk to an attorney first. But personally, when I started out, I found generic contracts on Google that I could upload to DocuSign, or I could upload it to Adobe Fill-In Sign, and then you could basically customize those contracts to your needs. Or you can go to websites like eforms.com, rocketlawyer.com. They have standard templates that you can use. Don't overthink the contracts. Best thing to do would be to talk to a real estate attorney. Outside of that, you can literally just Google a contract and find it, get it signed, send it to your title attorney. If there's a problem, your title company will tell you, okay? If the contract's not legally binding, or if it needs to be different for the state, your title company will tell you. No one's going to bite you. It's not that big of a deal, right? Don't get caught up in the contracts, because there are ways, to learn on the go. Like I said, no one's going to bite you. So don't freak out about the contracts. You can find one on Google, send it to the homeowner through DocuSign. And once they sign it, it literally sends it right back to your email. Then you can print it or save it or send it to your title company or do as you please with it. So don't overthink the contracts. You have a title attorney to help you out with those things if necessary. Okay. Next question. How do I find a title company? Okay. So this is actually a really common question, and it's one of the easiest questions to answer. Okay. Type in, let's say you're wholesaling a house in Tampa, Florida. Go to Google, type in title company Tampa, Florida. Okay. Call each company one by one and find out which of them works with wholesalers and which of them works with wholesalers a lot. Okay. If they work with assignment contracts all the time, they're going to know how to work with you, and they're going to make your life a lot easier. Things will move a lot quicker. Closings will go a lot faster. You'll get a lot more help, and you'll be able to use the same title attorney over and over and over again. And hopefully, you build a good relationship, and you guys can kind of have an ebb and flow to how you do things, right? But it's very simple. Find a list of title companies in the area of the home that you are wholesaling. If you live in New York, but the home that you're wholesaling is in Arizona, you got to find a title company in Arizona. Okay. If you live in California, but you're wholesaling a property in Houston, you got to find a title company in Houston. Find a list, call around, find out which ones work with wholesalers the most, and then use them. That's simple. That's simple. So next question. What would a conversation sound like with the homeowner? Excellent question. So when you're calling a homeowner and you're doing your cold calling, whether the house is on the market or off the market, what do you say? So if you're a part of my JV Slack channel where we do JV deals together, we split them 50-50 and I walk you through the process. If you're part of that Slack channel, you have access to all my scripts. So, you can use those scripts literally word for word and it would help you out a lot. If you want access to that, I'll put a link down below. You can just join that Slack channel. We do deals 50-50. We do deals all the time. So that being said, what does the conversation sound like? So I want to make this clear. The first call, especially when you're a beginner, the first call, your intention on your first call is not to make an offer and put a house under contract. If that happens, great, but that is not your intention. Your intention on the first call is to gather as much information as you can about the homeowner, about the situation, and of course, about the home. That's your goal, okay? You can set up a second call when you have done your research, done your homework, looked at the data that you gathered from your first call. You can set up a second call to then make an offer, negotiate, and start that process. The first call, when you're calling these people out of the blue and they have no idea who you are, especially if their house is off market, that you don't want to go into that call with the intention of trying to close a deal. That's not going to happen, okay? Maybe 1 out of every billion times that might happen, but that's not probably going to happen, right? So your first call is a discovery call. Discovery call just means you're gathering information, okay? So the kinds of, the way this might sound, hey, is this John? Right? You ring him up. Brrr, hey, is this John? Yeah, this is John. Hey, John, my name's Ruben. I'll make this quick. I'm calling because I want to buy your house over on 123 ABC Street, right? And they're going to say, oh, it's not for sale, or oh, you guys keep bugging me, or whatever they say, right? You say, look, I understand. Here's the deal. We pay cash, we close as is, and we close really quickly. It wouldn't cost you anything to make an offer. It's a no obligation offer. I am interested in purchasing it, and if you like my offer, great. If you don't, we'll go our separate ways. No problem. I'm not interested in wasting anyone's time, mine or yours, right? And then they'll start to warm up to you a little bit, okay? And then you can start asking questions about the house. They'll say something like, well, make me an offer. And you say, look, I would love to. Let me just learn a little bit about the house real quick. What can you tell me about it, right? What kind of repairs does it need? Is someone living in it? Is it vacant? Okay? These are the questions that you need to be asking. Any questions that you need to ask in order to value the house. You don't know how to make an offer until you've run your numbers. And you cannot run your numbers until you have talked to the homeowner and found out the situation of the house and the situation of why they are even interested in potentially selling. Okay? Once you know those things, you can sit down, you can calculate an offer, and then you can set up a time to call and make an official offer. But if you try to rush all of that on the first call, it's not going to happen. And you're going to be spinning your wheels wondering why you're not closing deals. It's because you're jumping the gun. You have to take the time to make that first call your discovery call. Okay? Your first call needs to be all about gathering information. And at the end of that first call, you can say, look, John, I appreciate your time today, especially since I called you out of nowhere. I'm going to do my homework on this. What's a good time tomorrow to call you back and give you my offer? Be very specific. Hey, John, thanks for your time. What's a good time to call you tomorrow and give you my offer? Nail down a time, okay? If he says tomorrow at 6 p.m., you say, okay, sounds good, John. I will talk to you tomorrow at 6 p.m. Great, okay? Call him back tomorrow at 6 p.m., then make your offer. But the first call is all about gathering information. Find out why they are interested in selling. And trying to make the money is not motivation to sell. Motivation to sell is the true reason why they are willing to sell their house, or why their house is on the market, or why they're even willing to hear an offer. The true reason, okay? Maybe they just got a divorce. Maybe their husband is sick. Maybe their wife is sick. Maybe they just had a death in the family and they want to move. Maybe they're under pre-foreclosure or under bankruptcy or whatever. I don't know for every case, but you need to find out the motivation, okay? Because that's going to give you a timeline, and it's also going to let you know how much negotiating power you have, okay? So the first conversation with the homeowner is about gathering information and setting yourself up for a good offer, okay? Gather as much information as you can, come up with your offer, and then call them back when you're ready to make an offer. Don't rush it, okay? It will not work that way. So hopefully that answers your question. On to the next one. Is it this easy? So I don't know where a lot of people get the impression that because wholesaling is simple, that means it's easy. Simple and easy are two very different things, okay? Simple means the process to completing wholesaling doesn't have a whole lot of convoluted steps. It's pretty cut and dry how you do it, okay? But knowing how to do something, and whether it's complex or simple, has no bearing on how difficult it is, okay? The level of difficulty is completely separate from the level of complexity. They are not one and the same, okay? They are different. Wholesaling is not easy. Would I say it's difficult? No. I wouldn't say it's hard, but it does take work. You are gonna have to be willing to make call after call after call and get told no after no after no, and not let it bother you, not let it discourage you, and keep going. I have personally, when I first started and I was still doing lead lists, I have made hundreds of calls in a day and gotten nothing. And you have to wake up the next day and do it again. And you might do that for a week before you even get close to putting something under contract, okay? But in the beginning, that's what it takes. You have to develop those skills. Now, of course, as you scale, as you become a more experienced wholesaler, you're going to have ads out there. You're going to have inbound leads. You're not going to be doing as much cold calling, but that takes time. You have to earn that. You have to get there, right? In the beginning, you have to learn these skills. You have to have the skill of cold calling. You have to have the skill of being able to be told no, and just thinking, instead of, oh, that's another no to my list, instead of thinking and counting the no's and just looking at how many no's are stacking up and feeling negative about it, take the no that you get and understand that you are one no closer to the next yes, okay? Every time you get told no, you are one step closer to a yes, okay? And the ability to train your mind to think that way is the most important skill of any person in a sales-based position, okay? If you are in a position, or you run a business, or your role is to close deals, okay, you better master the skill of looking at things in a positive light, especially no's, okay? Every time you get a no, that is one step closer to the yes. Every time, all right? You've got to be able to take it and keep moving forward. You can't let it bother you, okay? So you just need to remember that. Is it easy? That's not very easy. It's not really easy for everyone to get the crap kicked out of them day after day, yet wake up and go to work and work just as hard as the day before with all of the hope and the faith and the positivity that a yes is coming. okay? You have to master that skill. You have to master that skill, or you will never make it, because you'll give up as soon as it gets hard. If you get a lead list of 500 leads and you don't get one deal out of it, get 500 more. Make 500 more calls. Call that list again over and over and over again. But it's not easy. Is that simple? Yes. Okay? If I sit down and I tell someone that's going to come, if I hire someone that's going to come do sales for me, okay? I really don't care about all of the classic sales characteristics that most people look for, right? Is he a smooth talker? Is he persuasive? Is he tough in the close? All that stuff is great. A lot of that can be trained, a lot of it can't. But I will tell you the one thing that I will take over any trait, I would take this over the smoothest talker in the world, okay? It is resilience, okay? If I was hiring a salesperson, I would take someone with resilience over someone with classic talent in sales any day. Any day. The person who can get told no repeatedly, yet wake up every day and go to work with a positive attitude, knowing he is one step closer to a yes every time someone shuts the door in his face. If I have someone in front of me with resilience, I will pick him over the talented, slick-talking salesperson any day of the week. Any day of the week. Okay, resilience is not easy, but it is simple. And that is kind of the gist of wholesaling. Okay, it is not easy, but it is simple. And that's the reality of things. So if you're looking for easy, I don't know what to tell you. There's not a whole lot of things out there that are just easy. I mean, that can make you a bunch of money. Now, if you want easy and you don't care about the money, sure, absolutely. Go stand behind a register at Taco Bell, right? There is easy out there. If you're looking for it, you'll find it. I'm not looking for easy, and I don't think most of you are either. So let's change our vocabulary when we're talking about easy versus simple. Okay? They are not one and the same, and they are not mutually exclusive. Simple and easy are not and have never been mutually exclusive. Things can be simple and hard. Okay? And things can be easy and simple. So, I went on a little bit of a tangent there. I rant every once in a while, so that's the end of that one. Next question. Why don't the buyers just do this themselves? Seems pretty easy. So you have to think about someone who is a buyer, okay? Think about what most buyers are. And some of you guys don't know, buyers are people that want to invest in real estate and they have the liquid cash to invest in real estate, okay? These people have other jobs. They run multiple businesses. They have a family. They have all kinds of things that they are doing. They don't have time to be cold calling leads, right? People who are cash buyers or fix and flippers, they're busy renovating houses, managing portfolios, managing other businesses in different sectors and industries. They don't have the time to go hunt down deals and negotiate with seller after seller and get told no after time and time again. They don't have time for that, okay? So they don't mind when a wholesaler comes to them, makes a little bit off the top, okay? They will pay you $5,000 to $15,000, sometimes a lot more than that, in an assignment fee because you brought them the deal that they would have otherwise not known about, okay? Wholesalers do the dirty work that buyers don't want to do. That's the fact of the matter. Buyers don't want to do that. They'll pay you an extra $5-10 grand off the top of it for your assignment fee because they know they're going to turn around and flip it and they're going to make 50 grand. They're going to make the big piece. They're not worried about your little assignment fee. They're just glad that you brought them a deal. And by the way, this is why you put the house under contract, okay? If you put the house under contract, there is no one that can go around you. Most people aren't going to try to do that anyway because no one will do business with them again, and buyers are always looking for people to bring them deals. So why don't the buyers just do this themselves? Seems pretty easy. Again, there's that word easy. It's not easy. Just because it's simple doesn't mean it's easy. But the reason why buyers don't do this themselves is because they have other jobs. If they wanted to make this their full-time job, they would. If they wanted to make hunting deals, hunting houses a full-time job, they would do that. And some do. But for the most part, buyers have liquid cash and they're looking for a good return. So they're going to buy it and they're going to hold it and rent it out, or they're going to fix it and flip it and make a bunch of money on the back end. They don't mind your little assignment fee, right? So hopefully that answers your question. Next question. Doesn't the purchase contract stipulate the buyer must show proof of funds? First of all, not every purchase contract is the same, so that just depends. Second of all, a lot of people will require proof of funds. There are websites you can go to get proof of funds. You can go to a hard money lender and ask them for proof of funds. You can find a buyer to help you with proof of funds. But if you're part of my JV program, in our Slack, I give you access to a place where you can go get proof of funds for free on anything. So there are ways. I'm not going to give that here because I don't want that website to blow up and not work anymore. But there are ways. Just go online. There are ways to find proof of funds for wholesale deals. Don't let that stop you, because trust me, there are ways around that. So if you have to show them, you can definitely do that. Don't give up. Don't walk away from a deal just because someone asked for proof of funds. You can find proof of funds. Go on Facebook groups and talk to buyers. Go online and find websites. Or if you're part of my JV channel, I can help you out with that if we're splitting the deal together. So hopefully that answers your question. Okay, next question. Earnest money deposit is paid by the buyer or us? Okay, both. When you put a house under contract with the seller, you are going to put down an earnest money deposit for the most part. I do a lot of deals where I do $0 EMD, okay? And that's because the people who come to me that want to sell their house, they're highly motivated to sell their home. And also, I'm very good at building rapport with homeowners, so I can make them feel comfortable with that because I fulfill my contracts. I've never burned anyone, okay? But if you have to put down an EMD, it's not going to be much. It's going to be $100, $200, $300. You know, you can put a house under contract with a $200 EMD. Are you going to have sellers that ask for more? Of course. There are going to be sellers that want more. But ultimately, for the most part, a seller is not going to walk away from a deal because of the EMD if he believes that you are going to fulfill the contract. If you're coming across as shady and he's like, man, I don't know about this guy. This guy doesn't really seem like he knows what he's talking about. He's not answering my calls. We're only communicating over text, which, by the way, don't wholesale over text. If you do that, you're never going to be a great wholesaler. Just period. A little bit of a tangent. But a seller is not going to walk away from a deal for the EMD for the most part, as long as, you know, he trusts you relatively. So you can put down an EMD with the seller. It doesn't have to be that much. Or if they're really motivated, you can negotiate the EMD. You can negotiate the earnest money deposit, right? Let's say, for example, you know you need to get the house for $160, okay? You're not going to go to the homeowner and say $160, right? You're going to give yourself room to negotiate. So you say $145. And then the homeowner says, well, how about $175? And then you say, look, I'll tell you what, I can come up to $160, but only if we do a $0 earnest money deposit. That's a really good way. You know, keep it in the negotiations. Keep your earnest money deposit in the negotiations. And sometimes you can even use the 30-day inspection period as a negotiation. But just as far as EMD goes, get creative with how you negotiate that with the seller, because most of them don't really care that much about it if they perceive you to be someone who they can trust with their contract. So now the EMD with the buyer. You will require a buyer to put down an earnest money deposit. I have had in the past, okay, buyers not show up to closing. Back when you would still go to closings, I have had buyers in the past not show up, okay? And I learned very quickly the way to avoid that situation is to ask for a reasonably hefty earnest money deposit. Reasonably hefty, okay? A buyer's not going to walk away from $2, $3, $4 grand. They're not going to put down, because the earnest money deposit with the buyer is non-refundable, meaning that if they don't show up to closing, you keep the money. They're not going to walk away from $3 grand. If they put $3 grand down, that's telling you, the wholesaler, hey, I'm serious about buying this house. I'm not going to waste your time and make you go into breach of contract. I'm going to buy this house. Here's a good faith earnest money deposit of $3 grand that I can't get back. That person's showing up to closing. Okay, so you will stipulate the earnest money deposit and how much you want from them. Don't get crazy with it, but a couple grand, no buyer is going to walk away from that. All right, so hopefully that answers your question. Do you even really need to limit yourself to your home state is the next question. No, absolutely not. You do not need to limit yourself to your home state. You can wholesale from anywhere. You don't have to have boots on the ground everywhere. There are plenty of wholesale deals done sight unseen. The majority of the deals I do are sight unseen. Okay? You don't have to wholesale in your home state. When you start, I always recommend brand new people. Like if you're living in an area with 1 million people, close to 1 million people or more, wholesale there. Start there first. Get a feel for what it looks like going to a homeowner's house, meeting with them, talking to them, taking pictures, walking through what it's like to meet with a buyer. But you don't have to. You can wholesale from anywhere. The majority of my deals are way out of state because I'm a little bit of a nomad. I do a lot of traveling. So I'm not really in the same place for long periods of time. So I'm always wholesaling out of state is what I'm trying to say. You can wholesale from anywhere and you can wholesale in all 50 states. Can I start at 17? You cannot be on a contract at 17. However, you can bird dog at 17. So what that means is you can go find deals and bring them to wholesalers and they will pay you a fee for bringing them a deal. Go drive around for dollars. Go into your territory, okay, where you live. Find a pretty nice neighborhood and go look for all the worst houses in those neighborhoods. If you look for the worst houses in the nicest neighborhoods, you will have some pretty decent wholesale deals. You can take them to the wholesaler. Anytime they do a deal off of something you brought them, they will give you a pretty nice fee. You can make some pretty good money at 17 doing that. I'm talking, if you work really hard at doing that and you learn how to do it online, you can make $100,000 at 17 bird dogging easily. Next question. Thanks for clearing that up. My question is, can you wholesale something that is already listed on the MLS, or is it not worth it because of an agent's commission percentage? Good question. I wholesale properties on the MLS all the time. There is nothing wrong with wholesaling a property that an agent is on, okay? Excuse me. Agents do take a percentage when they're doing a standard sale. For the most part, when you work with an agent on a wholesale deal, they're going to do what's called, they're going to be a transactional agent, okay? They're going to be what's called a transaction broker. So they're just going to get paid a fee that is predetermined by you and the agent. They're not going to take a percentage like, in a standard real estate sale. So don't be scared of agents. Agents are actually huge help to wholesalers. They can connect you with buyers a lot, and they can bring you deals. If an agent gets some distressed property, he doesn't want to deal with that. He knows he's going to have to deal with putting that on the MLS, getting it on market. It's going to sit there for a long time because no one's going to want it. And then he's not even going to make that much money on it anyway because it's distressed property. So if he has a wholesaler that he knows, wants to turn it, he'll come to you and you can start getting his deals, right? So not to mention, agents can help you find buyers. Agents are a great source for cash buyers. So don't be afraid to utilize agents. Don't be afraid to deal with agents. Just show them respect and they'll show you respect. Okay? So be honest with agents. Agents, tell them, hey, I'm a wholesaler. I'm new to this. This is what I want to do. This is my plan. What do you think, right? And if they don't like it, fuck them. Excuse my language. If they don't like it, who cares? Call another agent, right? All right. Last question. I'm nervous about getting started, but I want to change my life. I have time and money right now. I'm just scared to fail. Any advice? Do it anyway. Do it anyway. This is something that I have taught my children since they were babies. Being scared and doing it anyway is the definition of being courageous and being brave. There is no bravery without fear. If you do something that you're not scared of doing, you don't get credit for being brave. There is only bravery with fear. Being scared and doing it anyway. If you want it, you'll do it. And it'll feel really good, whether you fail or not, because you just did it. because you showed courage and you did it anyway. So my advice for you, you have the time and you have the money right now. I'm assuming that means, you're at no real risk. Okay, so you're scared of wasting time, maybe? You're scared of losing that money that you have, maybe? I don't know. Regardless, if you are scared, do it anyway. Okay? Everything good in life is at the other side of your comfort zone. Everything. Everything that you want, whether it be financial freedom or whether it be a new job, okay? It doesn't matter. Everything that you want is on the other end of your comfort zone. You have to do something uncomfortable to get the gold. You have to do things that are uncomfortable in order to get the things that you want. And that is just the nature of life. That is the nature of us as humans. Easy come, easy go. If you can go to the store and you can just pick out anything you want in the entire store, and your whole life you grew up that way. From a child, you walked into the store and your mom and dad said, pick anything and everything. And you lived your whole entire life that way. Nothing really is going to be that special for you because it's always replaceable and you did nothing to earn any of it. It's just given to you. Okay? Now take that same child and let's say they grew up poor. And every time they walk into the store, before they even get into the store actually, mom and dad are turning around saying, don't ask me for anything. I'm not buying you anything in here. We can't afford it. Don't ask me for nothing. Okay? And that's that entire child's life. When that child grows up and goes out on his own and gets his or her own job and starts making his or her own money, and they walk into a store and they see something that they can finally afford on their own, and they worked hard for every dime, and they pay for it, and they take it home, and they unwrap it, and they see it, that person feels something about what they just purchased that the other person could never feel. Okay? Because that person had to earn the money, they had to go to work, they had to earn their own money, they learned the value of it, and it was hard to give it away. But they did because they got something in exchange. And now they're grateful. In your situation where you have all this time, all this money, and you want to wholesale, but you're just scared to fail, your only barrier to overcome is fear. Okay? And the only way to get past that is to do it anyway. There is no way around it. There is no way around fear. If you want what's on the other end of that fear, which is financial freedom, becoming a successful wholesaler, getting a new job, going after, chasing after that girl, whatever the case may be, you've got to go head on with whatever it is that you're scared of, because there is no way around it. There is no way around it. And a lot of people spend a lot of time trying to find ways around fear. Okay, let's say, for example, there's this new job that you want, but you know that you're going to have to do 4 interviews. The last interview is going to be with, the CEO, and you're really anxious about it because you're nervous, and it's going to be all over Zoom, and you're really nervous about it, but you really want the job because the job can change your life. Okay? The only way to get that job is to go to the interviews and face your fear head on. That's the only way to get it. You can't go around. You can't go around. You can try to go to another company. That company's not going to make as much money. You can try to go to this company. That company's got a different culture. You want this company. There is no way around it. You have to go face your fears head on, meet with them, do your interviews, and see what happens. And if you fail, you can at least hold your head up and your chest out and know that you did it. And if you succeed, there you go. You got one notch under your belt. You can do it again and again and again, and it takes practice. So my advice to you, man, is to jump in, dive in, go all the way. Okay? You're gonna be scared. And the reason that you're scared is because you're entering into new waters. If you weren't scared, I would say that there's probably something wrong with you, right? There is nothing wrong with being scared. It's not your fault for feeling scared, but it is your fault if you let that fear stop you. And I think that's probably pretty good advice for everything, not just wholesaling. So that was the last question, guys. I hope this helped some of you guys. I'm going to be obviously posting a lot more on this YouTube channel, so make sure you subscribe and like this video and share it, because you know this I'm brand new to YouTube, but hopefully I can make more long form videos that help you guys learn how to wholesale. If you guys have any specific topics that you want me to cover, just put them down in the comments, and I'll try to cover those topics in future videos. If you want to wholesale with me, okay, and split the deals 50-50 while I walk you through the process, go to the link down below. I will link my JV Slack channel. That is the only way I communicate with people regarding wholesaling. So go join that. Let's get to work together. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Go follow me on TikTok if you're not already following me. It's Ruben.Guzman Jr. And so that's it. Thank you guys, and I'll see you next time.